This is the second part of my video that talks about the proper way of doing the bench press. In part one, I already went over what you should do before actually attempting to do the bench press, as far as the inspection of the bench, making sure that the bench is on an even floor, that it's not crooked or tilted, checking the bench for damage. I also spoke about as far as how the plates should be loaded onto the bar. Now we're going to talk about the execution of the actual bench press. So once you've already inspected the bench is in good working order. Once you have the weight that you want to attempt to lift onto the bar, now we're going to talk about the bar a little bit. This particular bench that you have in front of you and the weights that are on the bench, this is what you will call an Olympic size weight set, and this is an Olympic size bench. That is different from, which I'll show you down here. These are your standard plates right here. That's a standard plate with a standard bar. And as you can see on this side, as I show you my other bench press, this here will be a standard size bench press. The biggest difference between the standard plate and the Olympic plate is that the Olympic plates have a bigger hole in the middle, whereas your standard plates, along with the bar, have a bit of a smaller hole in the middle. Now, most of the guys, if you see them in professional competition, they will usually use Olympic style weights and Olympic style benches. To me personally, standards seem like they're heavier. I don't know if it's denser or because of the way it's constructed, but for me, it just seemed like it's easier to lift on an Olympic bench than it is on a standard bench. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, once you got the plates loaded onto the bench, you will see that almost on all weight bars, I'm trying to get the proper angle here, you will see that almost on all weight bars, if you're able to see, you have the little grooves. Some of it is smooth, some of it has a machine built-in grip. These grooves will help you measure as far as how wide or how narrow you want to go when doing the bench press. You shouldn't go too far beyond shoulder width when you're doing the bench press, because again, your shoulders are some of your most important body parts when it comes to lifting. If you mess up your shoulders, you really can't do anything. So you want to protect your shoulders. So you won't want to go too far beyond shoulder width when doing a bench press. The narrower that you go, you would no longer be hitting the chest. You would actually be hitting your triceps. So you want to go just a teeny bit beyond shoulder width when you're doing the bench press. Another thing, when you're seated on the bench press, where should the bar exactly land? When you're doing the bench press, the bar should go just under your chest or just under your nipples. It should not be all the way up here. Because if, God forbid, if you have some type of an incident and you lose control of that bar is going to automatically turn into a guillotine. So you want to try to keep the bar just below the nipple line when you're doing a bench press. One of the things that I forgot to mention on the previous video is that when you're doing the bench press, as far as the placement of the bench press, make sure that the bench press is not too close to the wall. Many years ago, when I was a student at Long Island University, and the strength coach was doing a bench press, it was only me and him in the gym. He had about, I'm going to say maybe about 430 pounds on the bench, on his bar. When he went to put the bar back, he missed the docks, and he actually hit the wall or the pillar that was behind him, And you know that ball was going to go right back down by his neck. Luckily, I was in the gym with him that day, and I was able to give him a spot. And lo and behold, at least he didn't have to try to roll 430 pounds across his stomach. So that's something that I forgot to mention in the last video as far as the placement of the bench. Make sure that it's not near the wall, so in that way, when you put it back on the rack, it has clearance. Now, when you perform the actual bench press, I'm going to see if I can do this in one take. When you perform the actual bench press, you have to load yourself into the bench. You're not just going to go and plop down on the bench like you would when you go to sleep in bed and just automatically lay down. You have to actually load yourself into the bench, so in that way you're properly situated in order to execute the bench. So what I will do is I will usually grab with either my left or right the bar, and I will guide myself into place onto the bench press, holding on, getting myself, making sure that my shoulder blades and everything is even on the bench. Once I feel that I am properly situated on the bench, I will bring my legs all the way back, both legs all the way back. I will then tighten and squeeze my butt in order to build like an arch, whereas my shoulder blades are now digged into the bench and my lower back is arched a little bit off of the bench. That will give me power in order to lift the weights. So now once I have the weights in the air, I'll bring it down, like I said, just before below nipple level, and I'll press it back up. Bring it down again, and press it back up. And down again, and press it back up. So you want to make sure that your shoulder blades are dug into the bench. You also want to make sure that your feet are planted firmly on the ground. Because even though this is an upper body exercise, you're getting the power from your legs and from that arch back in order to execute the bench press. Like I said, you will see guys like Eddie Hall and the Mountain and the Big Z, Brian Shaw, World's Strongest Men. These guys are lifting an immense amount of weight. It's not only strength that allows them to lift like that, but it's also technique. If you have your technique down, the strength will come.